execution of a Nazi who killed 150,000 Yugoslavs and Russians. Fuchs. History remembers battles. It remembers generals. But some names survive only in whispers, attached not to victory but to annihilation. This is a story of a Nazi executioner known as Fuchs, a man tied to mass reprisals, scorched-earth tactics, and the systematic murder of civilians in Yugoslavia and the Soviet Union during World War II. Estimates link his operations to the deaths of over 150,000 people, men, women, children, killed not as soldiers, but as punishment. This is not a story of war. This is a story of extermination. Fuchs, meaning the fox in German, was not always his real name. It was a nickname used by both allies and enemies, a reference to his cold calculation and methodical brutality. He served as a senior SS and security commander, operating within Nazi occupation forces tasked with anti-partisan warfare, a phrase that often meant collective punishment and mass murder. By 1941, the Nazi High Command had adopted a clear policy. For every German soldier killed, dozens or hundreds of civilians would die. Fuchs did not question this policy. He perfected it. When Nazi Germany invaded Yugoslavia, resistance exploded almost immediately. Partisan fighters struck supply lines, ambushed patrols, and vanished into forests and villages. Berlin responded with terror. Fuchs oversaw reprisal operations where entire villages were erased from maps. Men were lined up and shot. Women were deported or executed. Children were burned inside their homes. One German report stated bluntly, "The population must learn fear." In Serbia, Bosnia, and Croatia, civilians were executed in pre-calculated ratios, often 100 civilians for one German casualty. No trials, no names, just numbers. As the war expanded eastward, Fuchs units followed the Wehrmacht into occupied Soviet territories. Here, the rules were even more brutal. Slavic populations were viewed as racially inferior, and suspected resistance, real or imagined, was met with extermination. Entire communities were accused of aiding partisans. The process was always the same. Villages surrounded at dawn. Civilians forced into open fields. Machine guns opened fire. Those who survived the shootings often starved or froze after their homes were destroyed. Mass graves stretched across forests, ravines, and frozen fields. Many were never recorded by name. Historians argue over exact figures, but the scale is undeniable. Documents, testimonies, and post-war investigations connect Fuchs' command operations to between 100,000 and 150,000 civilian deaths across Yugoslavia and Soviet territories. These were not casualties of combat. They were executed civilians, killed as policy, killed to set examples, killed to break resistance through terror. Fuchs signed orders. He approved actions, and in many cases, he personally oversaw executions. In 1945, Nazi Germany collapsed. As Allied forces advanced, many perpetrators fled, burned documents, or assumed false identities. Fuchs attempted the same. But unlike others, his name had survived in survivor testimonies, captured records, and intelligence files. Years later, he was located, arrested, and charged with crimes against humanity and war crimes. For the first time, he faced something unfamiliar: accountability. The courtroom was silent as witnesses described villages erased, families destroyed, and executions carried out without mercy. Fuchs did not deny the actions. He claimed he had followed orders. The court rejected the argument. The verdict was clear: guilty of mass murder, guilty of crimes against humanity, guilty of commanding systematic civilian executions. The sentence: death. The man once feared across occupied Europe stood alone. No crowds, no salutes, no ideology to protect him now. The execution was carried out swiftly. One life ended. But the silence afterward was heavy, because execution cannot restore villages. It cannot return the dead, and it cannot erase what was done. Fuchs died as one man, but his victims numbered in the tens of thousands. Their names are mostly unknown, their stories unfinished. History remembers monsters not to glorify them, but to warn us, because terror, when justified as orders, always finds new hands willing to carry out. Never forget,